Senator Sheldon Whitehouse just torched the Attorney General in one of the most brutal Senate takedowns you'll hear this year. This clip, titled "An Awful Day in the History of This Committee," isn't just about politics, it's about truth versus power, and Whitehouse is coming in loaded. We've got the AG Bondi in the hot seat, and Whitehouse isn't holding back. This is where he draws a line between accountability and arrogance, and it gets fiery.
Here's the second thing, and this goes back to the ranking member's comments about yesterday. To me, yesterday was an awful day in the history of this committee. It set new low after new low after new low. And I'm not going to talk about all of the new lows. I'm going to talk about one in particular. And that is whether anybody noticed the irony that the day before the United States Department of Justice arraigned a former FBI director for allegedly making untruthful statements to this committee, the Attorney General of the United States sat right there and made untruthful statements to this committee.
That line is a gut punch. The top legal officer in America being accused of doing the exact thing someone else got prosecuted for? That's government hypocrisy on full display. You can't call out lies from others while sitting there making your own. That's not justice, that's selective outrage.
And they weren't maybe untruthful statements. This wasn't a question of nuance. She made allegations about the ranking member and me having received political contributions from some, she said, Epstein close confidant. Well, guess what? That's actually checkable. There's a thing called the Federal Election Commission. The Federal Election Commission keeps a website that tracks all of our contributions. An intern at the Department of Justice could have checked to see that the allegation, I'll leave it to myself, that I had received campaign contributions from this individual, that was false. And it's not a maybe answer. It's a yes or no. Did I or didn't I? And there's an unimpeachable record that shows that what she said sitting right there was not true.
This is where it all unravels. The Justice Department's credibility just collapses. If the AG won't correct a lie told under oath to the Senate, what message does that send? It tells every American that truth is optional if your politics line up. That's the kind of rot that kills public trust.
If we are going to care about untruthful statements made by the Department of Justice and the FBI in this committee, let's not have this be yet another area where there are different rules for one party than for the other party. And just by the way, on that very subject, the other thing that the Attorney General did sitting right there was to strip all cover away from the untruthful statements that had been made to this committee by the current FBI director. You all heard him here. He said that he couldn't tell us about his grand jury testimony in the Mar-a-Lago case, where he first pled the Fifth, then got immunity, and then testified. He couldn't tell us what he testified to, he said, because the Department of Justice had sealed the testimony and because there was a court order barring him from doing that. And he actually identified which judge, the chief judge of the D.C. Federal District Court. Well, guess what? We know that since then, the chief judge of the Federal District Court has said that that was not true. He said specifically nothing prevented Director Patel from discussing his grand jury testimony. And yesterday, the Attorney General had the chance to say, you're right. We did seal the testimony in that matter. The Department of Justice did seal the testimony, and Patel's statement was true. Not about the court order, but at least it was sealed by the Department of Justice. She didn't say that. So now both his testimony that the DOJ had sealed his testimony and his testimony there was a court order barring his testimony are kind of demonstrably false statements to this committee. And then when he came back and we challenged him on those false statements, his second false statement was to say, I'm not going to answer any of those questions because my transcript of the grand jury testimony, I've worked with the DOJ to see that it is publicly released. Well, it either has been publicly released or it hasn't. It's a very simple distinction, yes or no. And we all know that it has not, in fact, been publicly released. And when we asked about that from the Attorney General, again, she left him high and dry and refused to say that anything had been publicly released.
That's the dagger. Selective justice is no justice at all. If this committee wants to be taken seriously, it can't let political bias decide who gets punished for lying. Whitehouse might be partisan, but here he's absolutely right. Truth shouldn't depend on party colors.
That there was any publicly released transcript. So yesterday stands in really stark contrast. I should say the day before yesterday stands in really stark contrast to yesterday. Yesterday, an FBI director was arraigned for making a false statement. The day before that, the Attorney General of the United States made arguably even falser statements. We'll see how the other case turns out. And she left the current FBI director completely exposed on his multiple false statements that his grand jury testimony in the Mar-a-Lago case had been sealed by the department, was under court order not to be released, and had since been publicly released as a transcript. I don't know if this committee is going to take itself seriously enough to treat false statements to this committee as serious matters, irrespective of who made them. But the contrast is really stark.
This clip isn't just another Senate rant. It's a mirror held up to the Justice Department. When the people enforcing the law stop respecting it, you don't have oversight anymore. You have a performance. Whitehouse called it an awful day, but honestly, it's an awful pattern we've seen too many times before. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next political meltdown I'll be breaking down. Things are just heating up.
Thank you, Chairman.